What is going on, guys? How are you all doing today? Rangovidsmango12 here, and we are getting on with the Flash finale review slash thought slash theories slash ideas type of video. So that's what we're going to go on here. And as you know, there was some crazy and mind-blowing things in this episode of The Flash, and of course it should have been because it was the final. So honestly, I wasn't expecting anything less than mind-blowing, and it delivered perfectly. It exceeded expectations and completely blew it out of the water. It kind of left me a little bit speechless, but it was so sad as well. So guys, before we get into this video, I just want to let you know that there are going to be some definite spoilers if you haven't seen the final episode of CW's The Flash, so just watch out for that. So if you haven't seen it, then go and watch it and come back to this video later on. But if you have seen it, then let's jump into the video. Alright, so to kick off the video, I think it's pretty evident that Tom Cavanagh or Eobard Thawne or Dr. Wells, he is definitely the greatest villain in a TV series, especially over Arrow as well. I mean, he just wipes every single person out with his acting, and just how sinister is. You kind of want him to win because he's that good. And you guys will be happy to hear that he's actually going to be a series regular on season 2, so which means that pretty much we're going to be seeing him return in most of the episodes. So you guys are probably wondering how that is going to work, like how is he going to come back to life? Well, I'll discuss that further in the video, but for now, let's just leave it at that. Now, moving on to more interesting things that happened throughout the episode, we also got a little hint at Cisco becoming Vibe, and he was actually affected by the particle accelerator, which means that he's also a meta-human, and that's going to be really interesting to see in season 2, and I think he's going to be utilized in a very specific way, so I'll talk about that further in the video, maybe towards the end. We also got to see Caitlin and Ronnie finally get married. I mean, they've been talking about them being fiancés and stuff like that ever since episode 1, and for them to finally tie the knot and get married is a nice ending for them, I think. I think it was really good to have them get married in the final episode, just so that it kind of gave a little bit of a character's side story, if you get what I mean, like finishing their story off kind of for this season, which I thought was brilliant. And I think that everyone here watching the video can agree that Barry finally seeing his mum and getting to talk to her was the most emotional roller coaster ride of the entire season. I mean, my mum started crying, let's put it that way. I didn't, but I felt a little tear coming down my face. It was pretty emotional, and I thought that scene was just executed perfectly, and the fact that he actually got to speak to his mother was awesome. Now, I'll speak a little bit more about him seeing the future version of himself later in the video, because we've got to theorize on some of these things, so I might as well save it until the theory section. But yeah, so of course we got to get to the ending, and he was actually going up into the portal. Now, that's going to be really interesting to see. I'm not entirely sure what that could lead to. I mean, in season 2, like where season 2 could pick up from, but yeah. So anyway, that's kind of my little review of the episode, talking about just like the little specific things. But now let's go over into the theory side of things, and let's start off with Eddie killing himself. So yes, Eddie shot himself, meaning that Eobard Thawne ceased to exist. Now, we actually saw Eddie's body fly off into the portal when it reopened, and that kind of sets us on a few ideas. Like, he could actually end up in the 25th century, and he could actually take up the name Eobard Thawne and then come back as a Reverse Flash. Some people are also saying that he could become Cobalt Blue, because if you think about it, Cobalt Blue was Merlin Thawne, a twin of Barry Allen, and that could kind of set us on a path of that direction, but that just depends how the writers want to take it. Eddie could also end up in the future where he's saved by futuristic technology and stuff like that, so there's a whole lot of possibilities that could be happening. But anyway, moving away from Eddie, we also got to see Jay Garrick's helmet. Now, in case you don't know who Jay Garrick is, he's pretty much an alternate version of the Flash, like from the multiverse, and that's really interesting to see because that's kind of the show. I'm not sure whether it's an Easter egg or whether the show is introducing the multiverse or not, but if they're going to introduce the multiverse, then they've got to be really careful about how they do it, because if you don't read comic books, then yeah, you'll be pretty confused. But that's going to be interesting to see, especially because in season 2 they have said that they are going to be introducing multiple Flashes, like alternate versions of the Flash. So we might be seeing Jay Garrick, Wally West, Bart Allen, Kid Flash, who knows who we'll be seeing, but that's going to be interesting to see. And speaking of the multiverse, this could be where the Killer Frost and Barry Allen in handcuffs comes from that we saw in the Speed Force. Now, if you're thinking about Killer Frost, it has been confirmed that Caitlyn will become Killer Frost, but there's a little bit of a twist, or there may be a little bit of a twist. We saw that Jay Garrick's helmet came through the portal into our universe, our timeline, which means that, or it could be hinting at or foreshadowing the fact that villains from alternate universes could be spilling over from their timeline into our timeline. So there could be the possibility of two Caitlyns, the good Caitlyn who's married to Ronnie, and then the bad Caitlyn, the Killer Frost Caitlyn, that comes over into our universe from the portal. So that's going to be pretty confusing and quite exhilarating to see, but there could also be a little bit more of a twist, and it could be the fact that Ronnie will die, because I think it might be confirmed that they're going to be doing the death of Firestorm arc, and that's going to be where Ronnie dies, and I think that could lead to maybe Caitlyn saying, Barry, can you please run back in time and save Ronnie from dying? And of course, Barry knows the effects of time and how that could happen and stuff, so maybe he'll refuse, and that's how Caitlyn brings out her powers, because maybe she just gets really mad with the Flash, and then boom, we have a new villain, you know what I mean? So that could also be like how that could play out. But going over to like the bad Barry Allen, the one in handcuffs, he could also be from an alternate universe, a different reality, a multiverse of Flashes, and he could be the bad version. He could be the one that didn't use his powers for good and he eventually ended up in handcuffs, or he could have never even got his powers and he just ended up living a life of crime, and that's how he's in handcuffs. I don't know, but something along those lines. So that's where the multiverse comes into it, and that is also where Cisco could come into it, because if you remember, he has been pretty much confirmed to be becoming Vibe now. You know, the hero Vibe? He can pretty much tell when villains and stuff like that have come from alternate realities. He can tell when times have changed. He can tell when someone's changed the timeline and how it should have been and what it's like now. So maybe he's the key to the map of the multiverse and seeing how different villains have come from different alternate realities. So yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but hopefully the writers will, sort that out for us. But you can pretty much get where I'm coming from when I'm talking about it. And that is where we get over to the return of Tom Cavanagh in Season 2 of The Flash. He could be playing an alternate version of Dr. Wells. And I'm not talking about an Eobard Thawne Dr. Wells. I'm literally talking about a real Dr. Wells. A Dr. Wells that didn't get killed by Eobard Thawne. And that's how that could play out. But what you've also got to think about is it might not just be villains and other characters spilling over into our universe. It could be Barry Allen going over into their universes, our Flash, going up into the portal at the end and ending up in alternate universes, and that's where he might have to work with an alternate Dr. Wells to get back to his own timeline. I mean, imagine that. Yeah, so that's pretty much how we'll be seeing Dr. Wells, but I also think that we could be seeing an alternate Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash will definitely be returning. It might not be Eobard Thawne, it might also be Eobard Thawne, but either way it'll be an alternate version, because if you think about it, if there's an alternate version of the Flash, then there's definitely going to be an alternate version of Reverse Flash. I'm just hoping that it could be Hunter Zolomon next. I'm looking forward to that because I've always wanted to see Hunter Zolomon as Reverse Flash. Even though Eobard Thawne is the best one, Hunter Zolomon is still up there with him. Of course, Reverse Flash could come back to life in our timeline, maybe because maybe another Reverse Flash, or maybe Eobard Thawne, like a different version of Eobard Thawne or something, I don't know, could go back in time and stop Eddie from shooting himself, thus causing Eobard Thawne to still live on. Something along those lines, I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing at the minute, just throwing ideas out there. Anyway, moving over to what we saw in the Speed Force, we actually saw the Flash Museum, and we got Killer Frost, we got Barry in handcuffs, and we also got a little glimpse of Legends of Tomorrow, and that is going to be awesome. That's actually coming in 2016, and that's like a little team. Obviously, the trailer's been put together. We'll be seeing Rip Hunter and Captain Cold and Heatwave and all of them awesome people, so yeah. Anyway, moving on to Barry seeing his future self. When he went to save his mother, his future self actually put his hand up and said, no, stop. Now, some of you guys might be thinking, oh, he was telling him to wait or maybe telling him not to do it. But I'm thinking a little bit more in detail. I think that future Flash has already saved his mother before and has actually already been through the Flashpoint paradox, because if you don't know, when Flash actually saves his mum, it actually alters the timeline in a bad way, in the comics at least, and creates the Flashpoint paradox, and I think that future Flash has already had that happen to him. So when he saw Barry, he knew exactly what he was going to do. So instead of saying, like, just wait there, I think he was saying, no, do not do it. It is definitely not worth it. So, of course, future Barry knows best, and that's what he did. He listened to him and pretty much stopped the Flashpoint paradox from happening, so thank God for that. Now, we also got a quick look at Hawkgirl, and she obviously will be featured in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but as of right now, it doesn't exactly look like she's got her Hawkgirl wings, so maybe that's something to do with the portal opening above the city. Who knows, but we'll probably find out halfway through the Flash Season 2, because I imagine Season 2, like at the beginning, to be building up to DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and then, of course, kicking off next year, so that'll be good to see. I don't know about you guys, but I think one of the major things that I brought from the final episode was that Dr. Wells, aka Eobard Thawne, basically screwed himself over. I mean, if you think about it, if he never told Eddie that he was a failure, then Eddie would have never shot himself in the first place. He would have just carried on his life like normal. So basically, Eobard Thawne's ego and too much focus on the Flash caused him to take his eye off Eddie, and Eddie pretty much came up with the idea to completely screw Eobard Thawne over, and that is where Eobard Thawne's mistake was with Eddie, his own ancestor. Of course, I imagine that he probably would have never thought that Eddie would have shot himself, but you know, things can happen, coincidence can never be accounted for, and that is where Eobard Thawne fell short. Now, that is it for this video, guys. What did you think of the final episode of The Flash? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, my theories may not be correct. It's kind of just something that I'm coming up with. Like, I might have missed some stuff out that I might have thought about and then just completely forgot to put into this video. So, I'll put that in the comments below if I ever think of anything else. But, of course, I'm always willing to hear your guys' thoughts and theories, so let me know, and make sure you hit the like button on this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and follow my Facebook page and Twitter by going to the links in the description, and I'll see you guys in my next video.